What's going on with car design lately? I feel like some brands are trying so hard to stand out. And yeah, sure, that is going to attract a few buyers that want to stand out as well. But why target a few buyers? Why not target the majority of buyers who just want something that's clean and nice to look at? This is the latest Kia EV4, and it is probably one of the most awkward sedans in terms of design on the market right now, in my opinion. Just check out the rear of that. What is going on there? And it's not even a fastback tailgate. It's just got this little boot lid. So it's actually not as practical as it kind of seems. You've got this little mouth opening to access the boot. 490 litre boot, so that's pretty big, but it is very restrictive in terms of, you know, getting a big box in there. It will fit in there, but you won't get it through that small gap. Why not make this a fastback? Especially if you want it to stand out as some kind of four-door coupe. It just makes it a little bit confusing. Like, what are they trying to do here? It's, to me anyway, they're obviously trying to stand out. But again, why not have a clean, practical design rather than something a bit awkward? As the name suggests, the EV4 is the electric alternative to the Kia K4, which is the replacement to the Kia Cerato. So it's about the same size and offers a similar sort of level of practicality and powertrain performance. Here I've got the top spec GT-Line, which features an 81 kilowatt hour battery, providing a range of up to 612 kilometers, which is very impressive. That feeds a front mounted electric motor producing 150 kilowatts and about 280 Newton meters. This top spec version has a claimed 0 to 100 time of 7.8 seconds. So not ridiculously fast, but I think it is kind of at the upper end of being a little bit slow for a top spec model, particularly an EV. And we've got used to EVs all being quite quick. So 7.8 seconds, totally practical and definitely adequate. But if you stack it up against other EVs out there, they are a little bit quicker. It doesn't really say what the max DC rate is, but usually, so it says 10 to 80% 350 kilowatt charger. That doesn't necessarily mean it will take in 350 kilowatts, but usually with manufacturer spec sheets like this, whatever's in brackets is kind of the maximum rate. So here it says 10.5 kilowatts for a three-phase power, but yeah, it doesn't really say. But I'm assuming that 350 kilowatts is the maximum it will take in. I'll flash up any definite specs now. And as usual with Kia products, the interior is fantastic. Like in terms of design, build quality, layout, look at all the storage options you've got down there. You've got a wireless charger, nice center console and armrest, twin screens across the dash, and you can turn these right down at night time, which is, yeah, I think missing in a lot of, I find it anyway, in a lot of the cheaper, you know, Chinese brands. They have these big screens, but you can't actually turn them down in terms of the brightness at night time. So they've got this big bright light spraying right at your face, whereas this you can actually turn it right down. So it's almost just black, like an old school car with just the dials. I actually really like that. But you've got separate controls for the climate control, which is awesome. This little main menu setup can be a little bit fiddly, but it's good to just be able to jump to certain things. And then you've got this typical grid layout for all your apps. I really like Hyundai Kia's latest media interface, and I like the way you've got the climate control here on a separate pod. There's actually a line down there, so that is a separate little screen. That always stays there, so that is good. You don't have to worry about, you know, digging into the screen to find, say, the aircon button. I mean, it is a little bit blocked by the steering wheel, but once you know it's all there, it's pretty easy to use. These seats in the front are superb. Like, they really hug you in, but they're soft and they look really cool too. You've got this kind of netted, very soft headrest section there. And then up at the back, plenty of room, as is usually the case with EVs. You've got a flat floor as well, just opening up space for the middle seat passenger. My head is getting a little bit close to the pillar as I'm getting in, because it does take on that kind of weird four-door coupe shape. But yeah, look at all that legroom I've got. My knees are nowhere near the seat. I'm about 170 centimeters, so even if I was, you know, quite tall, I don't think I'd get close to that seat at all. Got hidden USB-C ports in the sides of the seats, twin climate vents that you can adjust, and then a flip-down armrest with cup holders. And out the back there, you can see just how confined that rear windscreen is. It's almost useless having it there because it just doesn't provide hardly any view from the driver's seat. I really don't understand that, why they just didn't make this a fastback with a big hatch lid with a glass panel that goes all the way down. providing not only the view, but access to the boot and better practicality. That way you could open up the boot, as I said, and get bigger and bulkier items in there. And then under the bonnet, you don't have any extra storage space, unfortunately, like you get in some rivals. You've just got the electric motor and accessories and other components. Partly because I think it's got that sporty, low nose. It does look quite good at the front, but yeah, there's no extra practicality there. All right, we'll take it for a drive and see how it goes, see how it handles. We'll do the performance test later on as well. Out on the road, this feels like a modern Kia, as in very well sorted. It seems nicely tuned for Australian conditions. This road has got a lot of bumps and ripples all over it, but the suspension is absorbing those and not throwing me about, but also remaining very stable and sure-footed. This weighs around 1900 kilograms, which is quite a bit heavier than an equivalent K4 or Cerato hatchback or sedan. You don't really feel it, at least initially, because all of that weight is low down, so you've got a low center of gravity, which helps with handling and dynamics. You've got a bit of communication coming through the steering, which is good, especially for this class. You know, this is not meant to be a sports car, although this is the GT-Line. But yeah, you do have some engagement there. Not a huge fan of this big chunky steering wheel. It's kind of hexagonal shaped as well. I don't know what it is with some car brands. They're just trying to reinvent the wheel, literally. I'd prefer just a normal round steering wheel. There's nothing wrong with it. I've never had any issues with a round steering wheel, but anyway, it does sync up with the kind of awkward and modern design. It does feel very easy to drive, and visibility, at least out the front, is quite good. I've got a bit of a gap between the pillar and the mirror there. So yeah, it's practical, and it drives, as I said, like a Kia. It does sync in with the rest of the showroom. In terms of efficiency, I took this for a run down to Canberra and back, and the average total, or coming back, was 17.5 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers, which is not too bad, considering that's highway driving. EVs don't typically like highway driving because you're spinning the motor at a faster speed. There's no gearbox, or stepped gear, different ratios at least. This is usually runs a reduction gear, so it's not overdrive, and that just eats into the battery more than just trundling about in the city or on country roads, below sort of 80 kilometers an hour. But anyway, 17.5, what I'm getting at, is not too bad for that type of driving condition. We do have a number of different drive modes here. We'll put it into sport mode. You've got eco, normal, sport, my drive, and snow. Obviously in sport mode, the throttle response picks up a bit. Got a tiny bit of wheel spin there. It feels adequately fast. This is not, as I said, if you're getting into a different EV and testing them all out, this won't seem all that quick compared with some, but it's about the same as a typical, or just a fraction slower than an equivalent GT-Line K4 turbo petrol model. We'll push it a bit harder going down because there's a few bumps on corners that I like to test out, such as this one coming up here. We'll see how it reacts with a bit of speed. Yeah, it seems like it's got plenty of suspension travel and good absorption rate, but perhaps maybe just a little bit too soft for a sporty package, I guess. It feels a little bit softer than the equivalent K4 GT-Line, I think. This is being a lot heavier. There's just physics start to come into play, but it is a very well sorted suspension setup because it can absorb the bumps. It's not too rigid, it's not too firm, but it still remains quite agile and predictable. Down through here, some more bumps. You probably can't see them on camera, but the car's kind of compressing and swaying just a little bit. Around here, plenty of grip, good tyres on this. Good brakes as well, poke it in, full power. Yeah, this is really nice to drive. I've just turned the ESC off. Let's just see what sort of traction we have available without the electronics helping out. There's a little bit of understeer there, kind of heaved into the corner. I mean, it's slightly greasy today. It's not wet, but it's sort of damp in some areas. Now along here, there's a lot of bumps. Hopefully you can see those on camera, but it really causes a lot of vehicles to kind of seesaw and tip and rock forward and backwards. But this is just, yeah, doing well to absorb the bumps, remaining comfortable, but also remaining stable and controlled. like, I guess it comes back to what you treat the GT line. Like, what do you expect from a GT line? This is not a GT, so it's not a sports sedan. It's just got a bit of sporty flavour, and I think in that regard, it's doing perfectly fine. Yeah, look, it's a bit of fun. I think it's probably one of the better handling packages in this style of vehicle in terms of being an EV. I don't think it handles as good as the K4, the petrol model, primarily due to the weight, and this suspension does feel a little bit softer, or not softer, but there just seems to be more compression range or wheel movement happening. But overall, a dynamic package. It's going to suit a wide range of buyers. As I said, it's very practical and easy to drive. Just that rear visibility and that rear end design is, it takes a bit of getting used to, I think. Prices start from around $65,000 for this top spec model, excluding on-road costs, which I think is just far too much, considering this is meant to be an electric equivalent to the K4, which is, you know, Cerato, Toyota Corolla, Hyundai i30 type of vehicle. $65,000, you know, that'll get you a Civic Type R almost, or at least a very high spec i30N. In my opinion, this should start from around $50,000 to $55,000 at the most. Although if you are comparing it to other EV rivals, this does boast that impressive range. All right, let's head off now and do the performance test and see how it goes.